This is Kentucky's Voice Radio, covering the latest state and local issues with Tom Fallbush, Bob Scott, and Jim Waters.
And this is the Friday edition of Kentucky's Voice. Welcome in. Glad to have you with us today. My name is Jim Waters. I'm one of the co-hosts on this program, along with Vladimir Aguilar, who also has been a frequent guest and also hosted this show and is the host of The Cuban Show, and is a great conservative Cuban American. We're not hyphenating that. We're just saying where you're from and just recognizing that you have the creds to be here today. So welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, we're in the third day of a government shutdown here, Vladimir, that's got Democrats scrambling. Even their own left-leaning media allies are cringing at their pathetic attempts to spin the blame. So if you're tired of the radical left holding America hostage over their socialist wish list, then stick around, because this one's going to be a doozy today.
And of course, they will try to blame the Republicans all the time.
Well, that's always what happens.
Projection.
Well, let's set the scene. The federal government has shut down, folks. At least part of the federal government is shut down. We'll talk more about that in a minute. But Democrats in Congress torpedoed a clean Republican continuing resolution that would have kept the lights on and the services running smoothly. Why? Because the Democrats are demanding that we expand Obamacare subsidies to cover things like abortions and transgender surgeries, that we provide health care for illegal aliens. They're fighting to roll back parts of the one big beautiful bill that they said that Republicans have said no way to that, because they worked hard to get these cuts passed, and now the Democrats simply want to undo that. So here we are. Federal workers are furloughed. Military folks are working without pay for now, and everyday Americans pay the price for the obstruction of the left in this country. Let's make no mistake about who's at fault here. And I didn't stutter when I said that. It's the left, and it's Democrats. Inner House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries, this guy, where did he come from? Oh, he came from New York. He's been leading the Democratic caucus since 2023, and they've been nothing but losers and losing everything since then. He's in a desperate bid to win the messaging war. Jeffries fired up. I love this. Jeffries fired up. Did you hear about this? He fired up a YouTube live stream on his channel right as the shutdown hit, promising round-the-clock coverage to rally the troops and bash Republicans. Guess what happened? Technical glitches galore, hours of dead air, including a 3-hour blackout from 2:30 to 5:30 a.m. with nothing but reruns, and viewership that plummeted to as low as a few dozen people at times. This is the House Minority Leader, the leading Democrat in the country, certainly one of those. Jeffries even popped in with this awkward gem. Y'all, I ain't scared. I'm from Brooklyn. And then there was nothing but like crickets. I mean, peak audience, about 1,000 viewers. Meanwhile, the White House's own stream was pulling in over 100,000 viewers. Even Politico, which is a left-leaning Hill publication, couldn't hold back the mockery in their piece entitled "Gen Z is in the House" and other cringe moments in the Democrats' shutdown marathon. They roasted the whole fiasco, surprise cut-ins to a Gen Z YouTuber who looked shocked to be on camera, a bizarre segment with 4 congressmen chatting about Halloween while waving a pineapple prop like it was some kind of strategy session, and perhaps most telling, 0 appearances from big-name social media stars in the Democratic Party like AOC and Jasmine Crockett. They were going to touch this with a 10-foot pole. 22 skipped it entirely. Instead, we got Representative Sarah McBride from Safe Blue, Delaware, who is Congress's first trans member, taking the mic. Coordination, non-existent. One Democratic strategist admitted to Politico, "Are the metrics embarrassing? Yes, but the bar is in hell. At least they're trying." That's their response. At least they're trying. Can you imagine if the Democrats said that? If the Republicans said that, the Democrats would have pounced. Well, the Republicans did pounce this time. National Republican Congressional Committee War Room Director Ben Peterson tweeted about the pitiful 400 viewers and turning in for candy tasting talk, noting the chat was disabled, probably to hide the tumbleweeds. More on the shutdown coming up. You're with us here on Kentucky's Voice. Don't go away. Thanks for being with us today.
Now, Back to Kentucky's Voice Radio, online at kyvoice.org.
Well, Vladimir Aguilar with me here in the studio today. Jim Waters in here. We're live on the radio on 970 WGTK, and you can catch us on television, Channel 21.
We're on YouTube.
I have to look better now. I just can't wear my shorts and T-shirt here for this show anymore. When we were on the radio, and it didn't matter, But Vladimir, we have to spruce it up a little bit here for the TV program. But join us this afternoon, by the way, on Channel 21 here, WBNA in Louisville at 12:34 and 8 p.m. And also, we'd like to know what you think about this government shutdown. The left media, even some of them are now recognizing, but in the past, traditionally, Vladimir, these government shutdowns have always been usually blamed on the Republicans. And I scratch my head about this, but this time the White House is really fighting back on this, and the congressional Republicans are fighting hard.
And I want to educate people a little bit about this, because now, of course, Democrats, they're trying to blame the Republicans on it, because they say, oh, they have the control of the House and the White House and all of that. But guys, remember, you need 60 votes in the Senate to pass any
continuing resolution.
Right. 45 of the 47 Democrats vote no to pass this resolution. And that's why they shut down the government.
Now let's get this straight. This is the same type of resolution that they voted for 13 times during the Biden administration. Several times in 21, 22, 23, 24. But now when it's Republicans in charge, they would rather deny Republicans a political win than they would help the country. They're fine with even many of their own people not getting a paycheck, many of their own people being laid off and furloughed in order to try to keep the Republicans from getting political gain here. So it's become very partisan.
And I have a few numbers here, like people will like to know that, because despite they say facts are facts.
That's right. The numbers don't lie.
Yeah, the numbers don't lie. They can be mad at that. But, I mean, the numbers are like the real ones. And I'll say, like, in this resolution, they want to add $1.5 trillion of dollars spending on free healthcare for illegal immigrants, $500 million to the media, and another $50 billion to rural hospital funding. Plus, they want some other money to implement the DEI policies.
Yeah, see, these are all left-wing,
of course,
policies. Now, someone will take the rural hospital issue, for example, and try to make that. But here's the issue: there's a lot of hypocrisy involved here. And what I mean by that, folks, is this. The same people who run many of these hospital associations, and they're the strongest lobbies in our state. It's one of the strongest lobby. The Kentucky hospital lobby is one of the strongest in our state of Kentucky, in our Commonwealth. And they will stand in the way of allowing other providers or other innovative way of providing healthcare services. And they will use the certificate of need to keep out any kind of other providers. And now we're going to fight this in the legislature, and I think we're going to get some more wins. This year, our legislature did pass a certificate of need repeal for freestanding birthing centers.
Yes.
We had hundreds of Kentucky expectant mothers and women who were going to other states in order to because they wanted to have their baby. They wanted to give birth. They didn't want to give birth at a hospital, a cold, steel-laden hospital. They wanted to give birth in a birthing center where they could be more in control of the process and they would have more say. But these are the same folks standing in the way. We're going to give them money just to keep these open, these hospitals. Well, maybe we need some of these hospitals, and maybe we don't need all of these. Yep. Maybe we need some other innovative approaches to healthcare, and that's maybe an issue for another day. But I bring that up because of this funding proposal. Now, let's get to some of the misinformation that's being out there.
Yes, actually,
and one of those is that we haven't been funding healthcare for illegals. And you have a clip here, and let's go to the clip Daniel, there with this left-wing senator from New Hampshire. What a surprise from the Northeast. What a shocker. Let's hear it.
I haven't heard anybody in my party saying that illegal immigrants should get access to the health insurance marketplace.
I'm so glad you said that. Actually, I have some tape of your Democratic Party members saying this on the debate stage. So they've all said it. Let's play the clip.
lot of you have been talking tonight about these government health care plans that you've proposed in one form or another. This is a show of hands question, and hold them up for a moment so people can see. Raise your hand if your government plan would provide coverage for undocumented immigrants.
Senator, that's literally every member of your party, from moderate to more progressive, that have said that in the past.
so here
that's why I pay the internet.
The video, the numbers don't lie, and the video doesn't lie.
Yeah, so that didn't age too well, right?
But it's amazing how so it's all about. This should be a real revelation, even to Kentucky Democrats.
Yes.
This should be a real revelation. This is your party saying, we never were for this. And every one of your candidates said they supported that.
Yeah. So, like you said before, it's all based on hypocrisy here, because we see these people not only providing illegal immigrants with free health care. No. We saw what happened in New York, spending millions of dollars in hotels, food. They giving the members of the Tren de Aragua cartel cards with $1,000 to spend in anything. We got that famous influencer. He was using his baby to get money from the government, and no one did nothing.
So so you're right, and we have folks defending this. Amazing, and we have we had the head of the National Democratic Party. And he really gave some insight about why they're doing this. And it's important, I think, for people to understand why this is being done. It's because the Democratic Party needs more voters.
Of course.
And this is just blatantly political vote buying, because he was talking the other day about when the Democrats get back in charge, they're going to make Washington, D.C. a state, and they're going to make Puerto Rico a state. Well, why? Why? Because this would give the Democratic Party this is the same reason why they fought so hard against immigration reform, or building the wall and keeping out illegal immigrants, because they're looking at them as a voting bloc.
And that's the other part of the hypocrisy. They hide it from people. Why you don't tell people, like in this budget, most of the money that you're requesting for illegal immigrants to fund the free health care for them is going to secure the border, because we need to secure the borders. And make no mistakes, these people, yes, they need the illegal immigrants, but not to have them to become a citizen or nothing like that. No. They need to keep them illegal with the hope that someday, somehow, we're going to help you to become a citizen. And that's how they get, people voting. But also we got the legal vote situation in this country. Let's not forget that.
Yeah. Well, and you're right. And of course, the irony of this is that the same folks pushing this don't really push the things that go along with becoming a citizen. For example, assimilating into the American culture, learning English, abiding by our laws. Let's start there. Assimilating, becoming American, and this is something that even conservative Democrats in the past have been very big on. But things have become so partisan now that even when a Democrat a lot of times knows what's right, they have to go along with their party, and this is not a healthy political situation for our country. But if you're going to come here, you need to be you need to be like you did. Exactly.
Like I did.
But I heard a great point made by a conservative recently, and that is the reason they were talking about the reason they were so adamant about arresting and deporting illegals was because he said a person willing to break the law in this sense is willing to usually break the law in other ways as well. So if they're already a lawbreaker, this opens the door to more lawbreaking.
Of course.
What do you think about that?
Of course. Well, same thing. There's no one better than me that can explain that. When I came through this country, when I came to the border of this country, I didn't cross illegally. No, I went to to the border. I knocked the
You
door.
went through a process. You were
I
telling
went
me.
through a process, and after all that process, they provide me with some help, like, food stamp, Medicaid, and all of that, but only for 8 months. I was working the next month and I start paying taxes, but that help, that's fine. You need some help to start over, but you can't spend your whole life first because you went across illegally, jumping a fence or, in this case, they didn't jump because the same.
It was open.
Yeah, it was open. They were welcoming them,
Yeah.
and you can have taxpayer dollars supporting that.
Well, you're with us here on Kentucky's Voice. Thanks for joining us today. We're here each weekday, 11 to noon, live on the radio at 970 WGTK. And also you can catch us on WBNA this afternoon, 12:34 and 8. And you can let us know you're watching today, listening. Let us know what you think about this debate over the government shutdown at 502-571-0970. What Senator Paul is saying about this. Stay with us. We'll have that up next.
Are you ready to stand for truth? Kentucky is at a crossroads, and we need voices that won't back down. This is your moment to rise. Speak up and be part of a movement that's changing the narrative in the Commonwealth. Kentucky's Voice is calling on bold citizen journalists, fearless editors, and those unafraid to speak truth in the public square. Volunteer, intern, contribute. Scan the QR code or visit kyvoice.org to join the fight. This is more than media. This is your moment. You are Kentucky's voice.
Now, back to Kentucky's Voice Radio, online at kyvoice.org.
And thanks for joining us today here on Kentucky's Voice and staying with us here for this segment. And we're talking about the government shutdown. We're in the third day of this shutdown today. And I don't have any problem saying this is a Democrat-made chaos. It's all to protect their big government dreams at your expense. Republicans offered a simple fix. It still wasn't enough. And we're going to hear from Senator Rand Paul here in a moment. But, he's concerned about the deficit spending, and both parties are blamed. But the Democrats offered a bigger a spending bill that was over $1 trillion more than the Republicans did. And this offers a reminder of why conservative voices, I think, like Kentucky's Voice, are needed. Here's the Trump-deranged mainstream, lamestream media at it again, peddling their biased polls to paint Republicans as the villains in this shutdown. Take the Washington Post, for example, or the Washington Compost, like Mark Levin calls it. ABC News and NBC are breathlessly reporting that 47% of Americans are blaming Trump and the Republicans, compared to just 30% pointing the fingers at Democrats. But let's get through the spin here. Keep in mind where this is coming from. Keep in mind where these polls are coming from. And let me remind you of this, Vladimir Aguilar, who's with me, Jim Waters, here on the show today. These are the same left-wing echo chambers that swore Kamala Harris would crush Trump in 2024, only to be proven dead wrong by the voters. Their polls are cooked with loaded questions and skewed samples designed to protect their radical views and their radical plans to hold America hostage, both economically and other ways as well. They hate the truth and they hate conservatism.
Kamala?
So these are the folks.
Who's Kamala?
Yeah. So,
is still she out there?
I mean, even her own party doesn't want her now. But the truth is, Republicans passed a clean continuing resolution in the House to keep the government funded through November. No drama, not really too many extras. Too much spending still, yeah. We have to say that. But they were straightforward with this, a straight funding bill to at least avoid this shutdown and this mess. Democrats in the Senate shot it down because they won't compromise unless we cave to their socialist demands, as we've been talking about, and unless we roll back the progress we made in the one big beautiful bill that stopped taxpayer dollars, for example, from flowing to non-citizens. The bottom line here, folks, is this. Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries are willing to furlough federal workers, leave our military unpaid, disrupt services for everyday Americans just to fund their extreme agenda and just to deny the Republicans any progress at all, any political progress. Even a New York Times Siena poll, the most cited by the media, show that 65% of voters say Democrats should not have shut down the government over these demands, and independents who actually decide elections these days are split, with many blaming both sides or unsure. Certainly not some overwhelming anti-GOP wave here. And don't forget, federal agencies under Trump are calling it like it is, the Democratic shutdown, plain and simple. The radical left refuse to compromise, and politics is the art of compromise. Republicans have to do it, but so do Democrats. Even some conservative voices on X are slamming these polls as fake news from Trump-hating rags like The Post. One user nailed it. Make no mistake, the Democrats are to blame. Each poll was from folks that hate Trump. So here we go. Now, Senator Rand Paul, I want to play this clip in this segment before we run out of time. Senator Rand Paul was on Fox News, and I want to play this interview. It's a little bit long, but that's okay. Stay with us for a few minutes because I think it helps you understand a little better how Washington works or doesn't work. And I want to give some perspective on how Senator Rand Paul approaches particularly spending bills, why he votes the way he does, but he also calls out the left for its hypocrisy. It's important to understand both of these arguments. Let's go with that clip.
Paul is the chair of the Homeland Security Committee. He's the only Senate Republican to vote against this GOP spending bill. Senator Paul, good to have you with us. We show that 71%, according to the Gallup poll, disapprove of Congress. Obviously, that's a pretty ugly number for the place where you work. Why do you think that is, and why did you vote against this bill?
You know, historically, when you look at polls of Congress, everybody hates Congress in the generic. But people tend to like their own congressman a lot better than that. So most incumbents actually have the reverse of those numbers. What I would say about the spending bills is I address every spending bill, no matter which party presents it, as to whether it will add to the debt or save us money. The Republican plan adds about $2 trillion to the debt. The Democrat plan would add about $3 trillion to the debt. I'm just not for piling on more. We have a $37 trillion debt. Somebody's got to do something about it. Someone has to take a stand. And there needs to be a conservative wing of the Republican Party. And sometimes I'm it. Right now, I am it. I'm opposed to deficit spending. I proposed an alternative, the penny plan, which would balance over 5 years. And I will vote for that. I will vote for something that has less deficit. But I'm not voting for a $2 trillion deficit. The one irony here, though, for Democrats is these are the Biden spending levels from December of last year. Every Democrat in the Senate voted for this bill last year before they voted against it today.
And you got the point now from Senator Rand Paul that both points are important. I think let's talk about both points, Vladimir Aguilar, for just a moment. First of all, he's concerned about spending in Washington. Yes. We should all be concerned about that.
And this is a good example to tell people, like, he's a conservative. He voted against that.
He's in other words, a conservative that doesn't just say they're conservative, but they actually vote against more spending, more deficit, more debt.
Their voting record is really high on the conservative index. You know? So, and that's the thing that I try to always trying to educate people like, guys, make no mistake. There is a conservative people like Massie, Ron Paul, they're against a bunch of things like the Republican Party does, you know, and that doesn't mean they are traitors or nothing like that. No. It's a common sense thing, you know, like it's about the good thing and the bad thing, and they are representing their constituents. So
and also sometimes and the big spenders, the big government folks know how to sneak things into bills so that it'll be a popular idea. For example, supporting the defense, the Department of Defense. And yet they'll sneak in their $900 toilet lid seats or a $500
or 50 millions for I feel one of the Middle East countries for condoms.
Yeah, and so then a legislator who's a true conservative that's where the political courage must come into place, and that's also where they must communicate clearly about why they're voting the way they are. You know, so the people understand, hey, I'm not anti-defense. spending.
Yes.
I'm not anti-strong defense in our country, but I am against wasteful spending wherever it may be found. And certainly it's a lot easier to find it in big government programs like Medicaid, like some of the other big programs that, big spending programs we have. But when it comes to like defense spending, or for Israel, for example, there's been spending proposed for Israel that wasn't really for Israel, wasn't really to help Israel. So this puts a legislator who wants to hold the line on spending. It puts them in a tough spot.
The thing is, like, constituents, they have the right to, request to their representative, like, hey, I just find out about this bill. What is your position on this? And this is what they're doing. They're doing their job. They are responding to their constituents' request. Like, and of course, even if we put some money inside those bills, like hiding money, I will say that. Why we need to pay that? Why?
Yeah, that's a good point. And then his other point, though, was about the hypocrisy of the Democrats in voting in the past for the same kind of resolution. So I think this is really good that he's using this to educate people about how spending, but also about the hypocrisy of the other. He was willing to call them out. So he's saying, on one hand, I had to vote against this because of to be consistent with where I've been. But I'm also recognizing, he said, the hypocrisy of the left.
And I want to make a point about all of this. Now that the government is shut down, I feel like the citizens will realize how many people we got in our government that we don't need them for nothing.
Yeah, it's really can be a positive thing for the taxpayer.
Yes.
Because that's why restraining spending is so important. It affects Americans, it affects inflation, it affects our economy, and it puts us in debt to other countries like China and other places where we're borrowing.
Baby.
Exactly. So stay with us. We're gonna look at what some other Republican politicians are saying, some from our congressional delegation, about this government shutdown. And is it really a total shutdown? Talk about that coming up on Kentucky's Voice, 502-571-0970. Don't go away.
Now, back to Kentucky's Voice Radio, online at kyvoice.org.
Well, the government shutdown is affecting Kentuckians, from furloughed federal workers in Louisville to delayed services in eastern Kentucky. With Republicans controlling the White House, the House and Senate, the path to ending this mess is simple. Democrats need to drop their demands for radical Obamacare expansions that fund abortions and transgender procedures, plus reversing smart cuts to benefits for non-citizens, and pass the clean continuing resolution the House already approved. Our Kentucky Republicans are leading the charge. Good news on this for fiscal sanity. You heard from Senator Rand Paul before the break here talking about the need to hold the line on spending. Vladimir, I was thinking it wasn't that long ago that Bill Clinton was saying the era of big government is over, and we actually had a balanced budget. Hasn't been that long. But it seems like a long time ago, because we certainly don't have that right now. But what are some other Republicans, Kentucky Republicans, saying about this? Let's start with former U.S. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, who has seen this rodeo before. He said in a fiery statement, "I can't count the number of times I've had to remind Democrat colleagues that taking basic government functions hostage for partisan purposes never pays. This shutdown won't end until Democrats relearn this lesson for the sake of the American people." He said, "I hope they do so quickly." We have, I think, the number is about 23,000 federal civilian workers in Kentucky who could be facing furlough. But as you brought up before the break, this might be a chance to cut some more wasteful spending out of government. I think the Trump administration is looking for that. One guy who's probably not that interested in cutting spending is Congressman Hal Rogers from Eastern Kentucky, who's always been known as one of the biggest spenders in Congress. And he actually chairs the who has in the past chaired appropriations, the Budget Committee. But he did slam the Democrats on this. He said the House did its part to keep the government open. Washington Democrats voted for the same short-term extension 13 times during the Biden administration, but now they want to trade it for free health care for illegal aliens and nearly $1.5 trillion in reckless spending. He's spot on. Representative Andy Barr Also called out the socialist in charge of the Democratic Party and Representative James Comer, Brett Guthrie. Guthrie's even declining his paycheck in solidarity with furloughed workers during this time. That's something else.
And it's funny you mentioned that because I mentioned the same thing to Senator Paul like a few years ago. I had the chance to be in a meeting with him, and I said the same thing like, hey, in the U.S. government, you will have a lot of socialists trying to claim a bunch of pushing a lot of socialist radical agendas on the government. And he said, yeah, we are aware of that. But that was just like 5-6 years ago. It wasn't that long.
So I will give Democrat Representative Morgan McGarvey some credit. He also is refusing to accept a paycheck during the government shutdown. So we'll give him a shout out on that because we're going to hammer him in a moment here on something else.
That's good.
But to end this, Senate Republicans are teeing up more votes even today, possibly to pressure Democrats. Just 5 more Democrats flipping could reopen everything for next year. Now, we call this a government shutdown, but how much of the government actually shuts down? And this is another reason why Republicans should stand their ground, says Issues and Insights. Here's what they say about it. I think this is insightful. Once again, they said we are being treated to a fusillade of stories about the horrors of a government shutdown, but we invite readers to consider this. Roughly 2/3 of government spending will continue despite the shutdown. In other words, there's absolutely no reason for Republicans to cave on Democratic demands that Medicaid benefits for illegals and Obamacare subsidies for higher income families be restored. The longer the federal government remains shut down, the more people will realize how meaningless it is and the less leverage Democrats will have. Great point. First thing to understand, they said, is that 70% of what the federal government does is immune to shutdown. That's because 70% of what the government does is write checks to individuals, checks that go out no matter what. These are called direct payments for individuals. And this category alone will cost, are you ready for this? $4.8 trillion, which is roughly 66% of all federal spending and more than 15% of the nation's entire gross domestic product. Notably, this category does not include wages paid to federal workers who will see their pay suspended during the shutdown. $4.8 trillion doesn't include wages. Got that? Paid to federal workers. This is money that the money that's going out is money sent to seniors in the form of Social Security checks. You're still going to get your checks, no matter what the Democrats or the left might try to fearmonger or might try to insinuate that you're not going to get your checks. You're going to get your checks. Money to pay bills for Medicare, Medicaid, food stamps, veterans benefits, a mountain of other entitlement programs that have consumed the federal government. None of it gets appropriated by Congress each year. Most people don't know that.
Yeah.
Most people think these things get appropriated each year, but they don't. It's all mandatory spending. They don't vote on this spending. It's already in the budget.
It's same hypocrisy when they say, 15 million Americans will lose health care. No, 15 millions of illegal immigrants.
And which brings up the issue of why we have so many here in the first place. So thank you, Joe Biden. We appreciate that. Yeah. Now, next, and Republicans too, they've been guilty. But next, consider the list of things that won't be shut down during the shutdown. And this is a list compiled by not a right-wing media source. This is from USA Today. Yeah. They probably missed some. U.S. Postal Service, Medicare, Social Security payments, air traffic control, banks, local, state, and federal courts, border security, disaster aid, federal law enforcement agencies, FBI, DEA, prison staff, Secret Service, Coast Guard, the military. Now look at what might be closed. National parks, visitor centers, tours of federal government buildings. Why were we paying for tours of federal government buildings?
I don't need that in my life.
Smithsonian museums. I don't need a tour. If I go to the museum, I don't want a tour. I want to go see what I want to see, right? No. So this, again, we're with Issues and Insights. Democrats claim that a shutdown is devastating to the economy as well, but that's only because they believe that government spending is an engine for economic growth. But the only real harm, says the editorial, aside from the fact that it reveals the dysfunction of Congress, is that it usually ends up costing taxpayers in back pay, added administrative costs, and so forth. Our advice to Republicans, says Issues and Insights, our advice to Republicans, stand your ground, then keep cutting spending.
That's it.
And to your point,
Simple.
that this is a great opportunity to show, and they made the point.
Small government. I will always, enforce that. Small government.
And why can't we just start now? Have smaller government than we've had. Cut that $1 trillion out of our spending. A couple $1 trillion.
Bureaucracy in this country is killing taxpayers' pockets.
Yeah, and let's talk about that for just one moment, because every dollar spent on government, first of all, it's not a dollar that government produces, because government doesn't produce anything.
Any money.
Government doesn't make widgets. Government can't give anybody anything it doesn't first take from somebody. Yep. So, and a government that's big enough to give you everything you want, folks, is big enough to take everything you've got. So, so the point here is that government has to take that money from taxpayers, because that's the only way they can get it, and that's why they want to raise taxes. That's why they want to increase how they get dollars and how they produce these. They don't really produce them. How they extract them from the economy. But that brings up the second point, which is every dollar that's put into government is a dollar taken out of our economy. Yep. It's a dollar taken out of the private sector.
And let's go back to the hypocrisy. Remember, these people trying to defend free health care for the illegal immigrants is the same people like back in the Obama era. They give you a fine if you don't have medical insurance.
Yeah.
You remember that, right? Because I was
right.
here. I got here just at the end of the Obama era. And I say, they say you have to get an insurance, because otherwise you're going to have a fine that you have to pay for it. So how crazy is that?
Yeah, it's very hypocritical. Well, anyhow, you're tuned in. You said, what have I got a hold of here? This is Kentucky's Voice. You hear it weekdays on 970 WGTK live from 11 to noon. And you can catch us on Channel 21 WBNA this afternoon at 12:34 and 8 p.m. And this all brings up, we were talking about the polling on this shutdown and how the mainstream is, of course, their polling is this is already coming from Trump deranged syndrome, demonstrating these symptoms in the mainstream media. So these polls are coming from those places, and that, I think, that brings up a reason why we need conservative media outlets like Kentucky's Voice right here that you're listening to today, and you can watch us, because our goal here is to bring balance to this and to push back against some of this nonsense and to actually give you more information.
That's why they want so much money to fund those media outlets.
The public media outlets.
Because that's the propaganda arm for their party.
Yeah, and they're all left leaning, so they don't give a conservative. It'd be different. I think it'd be a different discussion if it was fair and
remember,
and good
media
coverage.
is the full power all the time.
Yeah. And so the fact that government would fund media and then get favorable coverage, well, what a shocker there, right? But we're not doing that here. We don't accept government funding here.
This is no Cuba, baby.
This is
Wolverine.
This is no Cuba, and this is no PBS here, right? Yeah. And now in Kentucky, I'll say this: I think our public broadcasting journalists here they do a much fairer job and much better job than what their federal national counterparts do here. But our goal here is to bring you news rooted and coverage of news and analysis rooted in truth and values and conservative values, common sense values. We're going to hold government accountable. We're going to champion conservative values and common sense perspectives. And you say, well, what can I do? How can I help? You need to support us. Text GIVE today, GIVE, to 502-571-0970. You can give online at kyvoice.org, or text us about your thoughts about what we're talking about on the show today: the government shutdown, healthcare for illegal immigrants, spending in government, what you think we ought to be doing about this, and what some of your opinions are. Even if you don't agree, we'd love to hear from you. Or if you just want to say we're listening, we're watching, send us a text today to do that, 502-571-0970. Well, coming up, we're going to get you updated on Kentucky politics, and also some interesting things happening locally here as we lost our sheriff recently, and the mayor is announcing who he wants to be sheriff. We'll talk about that coming up on Kentucky's Voice right here in Louisville. Stay with us.
Kentucky's Voice is your home Real news, real people, and real answers. But we can't do it without you. Your financial support helps us bring truth to the forefront, hold leaders accountable, and give a voice to the people of the Commonwealth. Join the fight today. Give online at kyvoice.org or text KYVoice to 53555. Every gift makes a difference. Stand with us. Speak up. Stay strong. You are Kentucky's voice.
Now, back to Kentucky's Voice Radio, online at kyvoice.org.
Jim Waters in with you today with my wonderful co-host, Vladimir Aguilar. We have a lot of fun on here. This goes by way too fast.
Oh, yeah.
Thanks for joining me today there, Vladimir, the host of The Cuban Show. You can catch that across social media platforms. Finally, today on Kentucky's Voice, though, that's this program. We're turning to Kentucky politics, beginning with an update on the potential jockeying involving the U.S. Senate race and 4th District Congressman Thomas Massie's seat. Could Thomas Massie jump into the U.S. Senate race and Daniel Cameron run for Massie's current seat? Well, there have been some rumors percolating about this that suggest this could happen. It's unlikely, said Massie at an event in Maysville, Northern Kentucky event, covered by our friends at KET on Kentucky Edition. Let's play that first clip.
Seat. What my polling shows is that Daniel Cameron is winning the Senate race. So that was probably wishful thinking on the part of his opponents. I kind of lightheartedly said if he gets in the House race, I could get in the Senate race. And my polling actually shows that I would be the front runner in that Senate race with the other two candidates. They may have more resources, and that might not be how it ends. But I'm going to keep all my degrees of freedom open until January. But I'm signing up to run for the House of Representatives.
He doesn't sound like a guy worried about his seat, does he, Vladimir?
This is going to be interesting, like seeing that race, how that will go.
Yeah, and I think Congressman Andy Barr is going to have to be reckoned with before this race is over. He's going to he's going to broker who wins this, or he's going to win it. One of the two. I think he'll be definitely involved with this. But the reason I played this too was Massie then got asked about whether he might even consider a run for the presidency. Let's hear what he had to say.
I would not run for president, and I'll tell you why. I was there with Rand. I was there with Ron DeSantis. It is grueling. I think some people think they would do it for fun. Rand did it for the right principles, but there is no fun in that race.
Wow. Congressman Thomas Massie and Senator Rand Paul at the event, two cut from the same cloth, Vladimir.
I love how still he got that clock here on the jacket.
He's fun to listen to, fun to hear his take on things. Really smart guy and very independent minded. We need more people like that in Washington.
Despite some people disagree with him, that's fine. You can disagree. There's no issue with that.
We need the disagreement. And I want to say that to the folks on the right too. We need the disagreement. We need to have healthy debate. And one of the issues that has been debated on the right is tariffs. And this is off our Kentucky's Voice talk and text line here, 502-571-0970. Who controls the tariff money? I think the tariffs have worked out good so far, says this texter. I'm just wondering, where's that money going? Who's deciding that? Because it doesn't seem like it's our representatives. This is a good question. These tariffs are raising a lot of money. I think I heard $4 trillion. They're expected to raise like $4 trillion over the next decade. That's a lot of money, even in compared to our budget and our spending. So I think that's a good question. Obviously, the Constitution gives the Congress the authority to expend taxpayer dollars. Now, we're going to have a debate about what kind of dollars these are, but really tariffs are taxes. They're a temporary tax, we hope. But anyhow, good question. And let's kind of parlay that into a brief discussion here about tariffs. And there's two sides of this coin as well. One is that the Trump administration is trumping how much money these tariffs are bringing into the country, into the Treasury. A fair point, but also on the other side of that, we've got a lot of Kentucky farmers, a lot of manufacturers who are concerned here about the impact these tariffs are having on their businesses, and it's having a real impact in terms of trade, in terms of exports, in terms of equipment, buying equipment, purchasing things. The cost of everything has gone up because these are many times retaliatory. So they're retaliating against other countries. Any thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, I feel like the administration, they're trying to give some money back to those people, in other ways. But the question here is like, is this going to be like a permanent solution or just a temporary solution?
Yeah, it can't be permanent. This cannot be a permanent solution without hurting our economy.
Of course. So that's my biggest fear. Like, how are we going to solve this in a way like, would you see what was happening in the Congress right now? How are we going to solve this in a way that we can have a permanent solution? So let's say in the next coming years, if we have a Democrat administration, that won't go back to the same point that we are right now.
Yeah, it's a good point. And when we set precedent for doing something, and when you set precedent for signing hundreds of executive orders, for example, you have to think about what that precedent may be down the road.
We need to protect those laws.
You know what we really need here is we need such an on-fire economy, such a hot economy that other countries want to trade with us, that we don't need to try to make them do this.
Let's not forget that what we're seeing today is the mess that has been happening in this country for years.
And I think that's the approach the Trump administration is taking. Let's reset the
we need to reset because if you want to give a permanent solution, you need to start resetting everything and then start from scratch.
So more on Kentucky politics here. Representative Morgan McGarvey, Kentucky's lone Democrat in Congress, voted for a bipartisan resolution backing and honoring conservative icon Charlie Kirk, the founder of Turning Point USA, who was a defender of limited government, free markets, and American values, and of course was assassinated in our country. Now, though, McGarvey is privately walking it back after he got a bunch of backlash from his radical left base. This isn't leadership. This is political cowardice, especially as our government shutdown drags on thanks to Democratic obstruction. So now he's saying, well, I did, but I probably shouldn't have. Or I think he said maybe I didn't realize, what it was or something like that. We hear this from This is why you heard on that clip why Congress has such a low polling rate approval rate among Americans. Americans do not like this kind of thing, and it just doesn't set well. But House Resolution 719, passed on September 19th, condemned the horrific assassination of Kirk on September 10th in Utah as a heinous act of political violence, honored his legacy as a patriot who founded Turning Point USA at just 18 to promote fiscal responsibility and civil discourse, and called on all Americans to reject this extremism, uphold unity, and stand firm on principles like faith, family, and freedom. The vote, 310 to 58. All Republicans voted yes. 95 Democrats also voted yes. Because they said, we want to denounce the violence. And they said, we don't. And that's fine. I have no problem. I have no problem with the Democrats saying, I'm voting for this because I'm denouncing the violence, not because I necessarily agreed with Charlie Kirk on everything. Of course. I could do the same thing if it was a left-wing person who we
always do the same thing.
We always have. Dr. Martin Luther King wasn't exactly a right-wing conservative, but we would have supported a resolution to honor
this
him,
judge
recognize him.
Who died she was on the Supreme Court, Ruth. When she died, everyone was, even Trump, he was expressing like, oh my goodness, she died, she passed away, and they were political enemies.
Yeah, but you can articulate that, hey, and you don't have to walk it back. You don't have to be, you can say, look, to your base.
But it's funny, the people who defends the humans policies, they don't denounce the political violence on humans.
Yeah. So it's a fair point. 502-571-0970. Love to hear what you have to think about these issues. Let's turn now to what's going on locally. Of course, the Jefferson County Sheriff Aubrey has passed away. We lost our sheriff, and now Mayor Craig Greenberg has announced, and I think that was just today, in the last hour or so, that he is appointing Deputy Mayor David James to serve as Jefferson County Sheriff and State Senator David Yates to serve as Jefferson County Clerk. Yep. Also, we lost Bobby Hoekslaw, the longtime Jefferson County Clerk, which we had on this program and interviewed her during the last election season. Yeah. So additionally, he announced today that Julie Carr will serve as Deputy Mayor and Chan Kemper will serve as a Deputy Mayor and Deputy General Counsel. He said these are all proven leaders who represent every corner of our community, and I know they will continue to work hard and deliver for the people of Louisville every day. And let me say this about State Senator David Yates. There's a good example of what we're talking about. And just to reiterate, these are appointments that Mayor Craig Greenberg, the Louisville mayor, has made today because of positions that have become vacancy through a couple of deaths, one, the death of former Sheriff Aubrey, and then the death of Clerk Hoekslaw here. And he has appointed State Senator David Yates to serve as Jefferson County Clerk. Of course, Senator Yates has been in the state Senate. I've seen him
for a while,
quite a bit in the way he operates. He's a very congenial guy. He's a likable person. He's a young guy, and I think he has a pretty bright future if he doesn't buy into a whole lot of the radical stuff. Now, we don't agree on all the policy issues, but I think he does what he does. I think he's genuine about it. I think he genuinely believes what he says, and he's coming from a place of you don't get the feeling that he's being controlled by the party or being told what to say.
Don't get me wrong here. Like, we used to have like real decent Democrats back in the past.
Well, I think
the thing with the thing with the party right now these days, it's like has been kidnapped by the radical fast left, the socialist left. And that's what's happening with the party these days.
Yeah. So let's talk in terms of the mayor now about this, because I think he kind of fits what we're talking about here as well. The council has become more conservative. The Metro Council, they're within reach of flipping that to Republican control, although it's going to officially be a nonpartisan race, but it's still going to play into that. And Mayor Greenberg has governed fairly conservative here. He's worked with this council.
At least we had Anthony Piantini here, and you got the feedback from him, like he's been like really working with the council and the Republicans. So yeah,
and Louisville needs this, Vladimir. We need, you go to Nashville.
The world need this.
Yeah, but you go to Nashville, you go to Indianapolis, you see the cranes, you see the expansion, you see the growth, and you come to Louisville. Where is that happening? We need more of that in our city, and the only way that's going to happen is if these guys get on the same page and find out where they can work together and then do it, right? Yeah. Well, we've been working together today. Vladimir Aguilar, thanks for joining us here on this Friday edition of Kentucky's Voice. And thank you all for joining us. Be sure to catch us on television and replay this program this afternoon at 12:30, 4 and 8. Let us know what you think about the program today, 502-571-0970. Have a great weekend, everyone. Jim Waters saying God bless.
God bless.
And enjoy your weekend. We'll see you here again on Monday.